appearance. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So we continue our journey on Qur'an, with Qur'an, and we were first trying to, hand in hand, understand what Qur'an is by going through how Imam Nursi is introducing Qur'an to us. And of course, Qur'an is introducing itself to us. And by examples and verses, we were trying to figure out what those descriptions of Qur'an refer to. And then with this perspective, we will approach Qur'an. And as we approach Qur'an with the same perspective, we will approach the existence, with the universe, the life that we live. So for the past 2 weeks, we studied the first two descriptions. The Quran is the pre-eternal translation of the mighty book of the universe, and that the post-eternal translator of the various tongues reciting the verses of creation. These two we studied with examples. Now the third one, inshallah, for today, the commentator of the book of the worlds of the seen and the unseen. And as we are studying these, I'll ask questions, of course, but always let's try to compare whether this description makes sense. What are its alternatives? So is there something new here, especially what the civilization offers us as the description of this universe, this existence? This is one way to compare against. The other one is whether this way of looking at Quran is something new for us. Did we consider Quran as such a book? When we read it, it might make sense. But the question is, did I think about it like this before? Why would I like to make this distinction? So that we are going to be vigilant for this aspect of Quran, so that I can benefit more about it. The example, I'm going to repeat the example that we talked about last week. So for a child, generally, father is just dad. Like my advisor's daughter, like my advisor to me is a super knowledgeable person. He says his daughter thinks like he knows nothing because he's just daddy for her. So he doesn't consider his father as a super knowledgeable person of math or whatever, as I know my advisor to, because the type of relationship between me and my advisor is different than him and his daughter. So when it comes to Quran, I mean, of course, if you asked her what your father is, she would say, yeah, he's a professor. But did she ever benefit from him as a professor? No. So when I say Quran is speech of God, sure. What do I mean by this? So this is why we are trying to see different aspects. So now the third description that we will study is the commentator of the book of the world of the seen and unseen. Let's try to unpack. So let's first focus on the second part, book of the world of the seen and unseen. So far, he was referring to book of the mighty universe. Then he was referring to tongues reciting verses of the universe. Now he is talking about book of the world of the seen and unseen, a different book now he is talking about, which we will focus on. And then he says, Quran is a commentator of this book. Okay? So a new layer is introduced. So my questions before we get into example verses are, why commentator? Because so far we were talking about a translation and a translator. Now it's a commentator. Does this make a difference? Something to think about. Quran is a commentator of the book. And then, of course, we should ask, how do I interpret? since Qur'an is interpreting, how do I interpret should be my question. We can come to this commentator question later. First, we can start from book of the world of the seen and unseen. What is this? Like, what is the book of seen and unseen? In the original text, he uses the word ghayb and shahada. So Quran uses this term for alimul ghaybi wa shahada. So there's this word ghayb and shahada. And he says Quran is the commentator of the book of ghayb and shahada. So what is this book of the seen and the unseen? How is that different than the book of the mighty universe that we discussed before? What does this bring new to the table? Is this a new description or is it just a repetition of what we discussed 2 weeks ago? And my third question in this regard is, in contrast to how current civilization considers existence, what is the significance of ghayb? In short, when I say the world of ghayb versus the world of shahada, what comes to your mind?
I think of jinn.
Jinn?
Yes.
Okay.
You can not physically see them.
Mm-hmm.
So that maybe at least how I've understood the Maqam Basa and how it exists, but you cannot see it. Like there's a separation.
So it exists, but you cannot see it. Okay. Such a thing is ghayb. Okay. Shahada is the seen is the thing that you can see, witness. Okay.
You can, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
We don't necessarily see the process by which things happen. We just see the occurrence of change.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we do see events happening one after the other. That's a correct point of view, actually, in terms of I see Atik as just talking or behaving in a certain way. But then I say Atik has a personality. Atik has a spirit. I give it a name. But if you think about it, Atik it's just a bunch of atoms moving in here and there. Okay, what else? Ghayb. This is a very key term Quran keeps using, ghayb, as we will see with the examples. Now the author is saying that Quran is interpreter of the book, not of only book of universe that you know about. He is adding an extra layer now, because so far in the previous two, what was it about? You were looking for book of universe. When we mentioned book of universe, what came to mind? Mountains, thunder, birds, animals, and whatnot. Our general experiences. But now an extra layer is being introduced. Actually, the book does not only consist of shahada. There is a world of ghayb, unseen as well. What does this imply, though? And is this important? And again, if you go with my third question, does such a thing exist in the eye of current civilization? Does such a thing exist? Let's start from there. Does ghayb exist for our materialist society?
You can say reason is a type of ghayb. You don't see, you can have a physical proof for why 1 + 1 is 2, but it's not a physical, necessarily a physical material.
Mm-hmm. So what do we say about this in the eye of the current civilization? Certain neurons firing? Like, this is what we mean when we say be reasonable, like acts. I mean, if you were just a I don't know, robot. Like if this TV just falls, whom am I going to, like, I wouldn't say, oh, like TV stand, be reasonable. Like, I don't expect such a thing from this. But when it comes to you, I say, yeah, be reasonable. But even then, in the eye of the current materialist worldview, what do we say? Oh, it's just certain material, again, touching each other in a certain way that he behaves in this outcome. So when I was in the freshman in undergrad, one of our professors, he was a famous atheist professor, he was saying that your brain is a giant matrix. And this is like information is encoded in there. You are nothing but a giant matrix of zeros and ones. So if you're in a certain, not the movie, not the movie.
That's writing
Like in linear algebra, just like a giant matrix, n by n matrix. So certain ones and zeros, this is what you are. So, I mean, you're not anything more complicated than that. So for him, I am only consisting of observable ones and zeros, and those ones and zeros are simple particles located in my brain. That's all I am. There's nothing beyond this. But now Quran is coming up, even when we first open the Quran now, at the beginning of Surah Baqarah, and this is where I'm going to start from in the example verses. It says, يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, believe in the unseen. And this society says, I don't believe in anything if I don't see it. And by seeing, it doesn't necessarily mean eye, but touch, measure, smell, like some sort of quantifiers that I can describe it with. And generally, what I understand from this is your humanly five senses. But I mean, what do they mean by sensing black holes? We do sense it, although we don't sense it, but we do sense it. Like black hole is dark. How do you sense darkness, right? But we do sense it in a way. So in a sense, interacting with it, I say, oh, there is something in here, and it's quantifiable. But when we start with the second chapter of Quran, right there, it starts by saying they believe in the unseen. So what does this add by introducing such a concept of ghayb to us? What does Quran introduce?
This is the first quality of the believers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can directly go there. We can come back to here again, but this is the verse that I would like to exemplify here. So, Surah Baqarah, the beginning, second chapter. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So, this is the book in its guidance, sure, without doubt, to those who is God conscious. Sorry for the sloppy translation. Who is God conscious or have taqwa. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. So after describing believer as God conscious, then الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, who believe in the unseen. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and establish worship and spend of what we have bestowed upon them. Let me read the next verse as well. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. This might give us some clues about what might be part of ghayb. And who believe in the revelation sent to you and sent before you and are certain of the hereafter. So let's contrast it with our current civilization. What is revelation? It is speech made up by humans. But what does Quran present it? Like if you go with any Orientalist or any person, like your random teacher in the department, and ask them, what do you think about Muhammad? What do you think about Quran? What would they say? I mean, he was maybe a nice person, but probably he was having epileptic seizures, and he was in those moments of different state coming up with different poetry. At best, this would be the description that they give you, right? So the words that he speaks is word of people. Why? There's no, like, otherwise, why would those words come from? Where would they come from? Belief in scripture means, if you say that these are not word of human, then whose words are they? The moment you say, ذلك الكتاب, this book, it's coming from the unseen. Oh, wait a second, this world, I thought this world was one-dimensional. I thought this world was only consisting of measurable stuff. I thought Atik was only consisting of his particles. If he goes nuts, I was just planning to give him a different type of a hormone or something, and then things would be okay, because he's just a machine. But now you're coming in and saying that, no, Atik has another dimension, which you cannot comprehend with the rulers or the kilograms or whatever. He has a different aspect. Actually, not only Atik, everything in this universe has multiple different aspects. You are just being super reductionist to say that it's all about this matter here. So unseen in the sense, I mean, there are many aspects, but it is opening a totally new horizon to human beings, saying that you thought this universe is only consisting of what comes to your perception right away. No, there is much more in this existence beyond what is first coming to your attention. In this case, revelation is one of them. Hereafter is another one of them. As the following verses will come, spirit is another one of them. Angels is another one of them. So Quran keeps talking about these things which are not part of what society is presenting us. But overall, what is the big picture? Quran is saying that this universe do not only consist of the seen. There is many more in this existence, part of the existence, that is not accessible immediately to your, I mean, I'm not going to say immediately accessible, but it is beyond what you are you have access to, or you're satisfying yourself with in the current society, which is, if I see it, if I touch it, I believe. Otherwise, I would assume it doesn't exist. So this is why the description of the book of the worlds of the seen and the unseen should be shocking to me, saying that when I hear this from Quran, this is saying something totally different than what the university is teaching. Because the university taught me that Birkan is a, how heavy are you? Like,
Very heavy.
very heavy. Okay. Yeah. So here's like a 170 pound.
76 kilo.
Okay, 170 pound meatball with some bones. So now it's adding a totally, like, multiple dimensions to this book, saying that he is not only a book of the seen, but there is way more in here. If I were to consider this from the point of, let's say, psychology, when Quran introduces ruh, what does ruh mean? Because if I condition myself to say that, no, whatever happens in Birkan, it must be something about him lacking certain materials. But when Quran comes and says, there is a different dimension, there's ruh. Reevaluate what you are thinking about Birkan and his behavior. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's good. So maybe a contrast may help us. So there are certain societies. So half of what I'm going to say is real, the half is I will just make up to make it a better, let's say, story. There are certain societies, there have been certain societies, they were more, let's say, are more spiritual, believing in things like the dead spirits, the spirit of the dead people being recycled, visiting some other places, talking to us, and so on and so forth, right? More, let's say, mystical societies in the idea of our society. But I guess for such societies, the seen part would be about these mystical entities, not the guide. So the distinction here, the seen and the guide, the unseen, the way I understand is the distinction between what is given to you, what kind of access you have in this universe, versus what is not given to you, but you know that it must exist somehow. Right? So in that certain societies, for instance, if they were developed as we did, they would have maybe not a detector for radiation, but they would have a detector for, I don't know, a certain type of spirits. Right? They would have some color codes for different type of spirits, whatever, right? So for them, instead of the atoms, they would talk about some other entities, made up entities, doesn't matter which one is closer to reality. That's not the topic. But when Quran talks about ghayb or unseen, I think we shouldn't automatically think about these mystical things. Right? It's not about whether we are talking about the atoms or not. When Quran talks about the spirit or ruh, it's not the same thing as ghost in movies. Right? Or when Quran talks about the jinn or angels, it's not the same thing as these mythological creatures. It's a name to something that we have access to in this reality, but that's all. Like we know that that must exist, and that the rest is not given to us. We don't have access to it. This is what I understand from ghayb.
Okay.
I mean, just changing, for instance, the atoms to more mystical, made-up creatures wouldn't make us more, let's say, believers from Quranic perspective.
So I think whatever we are going to take out of it, it should be certainty.
Yes.
So it shouldn't be mystical in the sense that I will replace one unknown with another unknown in the sense that like sugarcoating something. That's not the point. So good. But how am I going to have certainty in the ghayb? Given that, but before coming there, so the biggest message I'm getting out of this is when Quran starts or opens up the chapter by saying that there is unseen aspect and you are going to be sure and convinced and secure about this unseen, that's news to me. Because especially in today's society, the way we are so much shaped with material and materialism, we say that unless I can touch it, I won't. So that's all it is. Adding this layer to the universe, saying that this existence is way more than what you can touch, what you can smell, or whatever in your materialist worldview you can consider. this universe has more. And I'm going to interpret the existence not only based on its material aspect, I will interpret it to you considering or taking into account the other aspect as well. So I'm going to talk about, let's say, Birkan. Birkan comes to my office, and let's assume I'm a life coach.
You are.
Yeah, I am the life coach. So Birkan comes to my office, and so I'm asking him, "Oh, tell me about your childhood," and then asking him about his life, what happened, and what bothers you, and this and that. And I'm trying to write him a recipe of how to behave. It really depends on what I consider Birkan to be, so that I'm going to write a recipe to him. If Birkan is a person who is just happened to be living in here by chance, I mean, chance could be billions of years of accumulated chance, or just him ending up in the United States, but in any case, it's chance. And eventually, he is a poor living creature, and he will eventually die anyways. So my point of recipe would be maximize your joy, minimize your troubles. If it is atik that causes you trouble, take atik out of your life. This would be my recipe, right? But if I consider Birkan as a human being in this life as a student, who is not only consisting of this material body, because this body already visibly started to fall apart, yet this is not going to be the end of his journey once the body totally falls apart. So I would write a recipe to him if my perception of Birkan is that he will live and die after how many? 5 years, 20 years. Let me give more time. So 20 years, then I would give a suggestion accordingly. But if I say that, no, Birkan is just a student who is temporarily occupying this body, physical body, he has something way beyond than this physical body. Yes, I do not have direct touch to this aspect of Birkan, but I can interact with it. I know it exists. Indirectly, I interact with it. By speech, I talk to him, for example. I would say, Birkan, there's a reason, there must exist a reason that atik is in your life. So you cannot simply push him out of your life. Try to see why he is put in your life. Like if he is in need of mercy from you, have patience in him, have mercy on him. Through this interaction, you are going to learn something which you are expected to learn before you graduate this University of Life. My suggestion has changed. I mean, where am I taking this from? Qur'an is mentioning this for our interactions with people, with parents, with friends, spouses. Like if I go with a materialist worldview, I would say, well, if the guy's a trouble, just take him out of your life and you'll be happy because make the most out of the moment. But if I take it from Qur'an's perspective, my parents, they're already old. Now they are causing me trouble. So why shall I increase my agony by being near them? But if I read it from Qur'an's teaching, Qur'an says, Yusuf, you're more than just this physical body. You're more than having fun or not having fun. There's a reason that everybody's parents are having this old ages as once you were young. Now, it's just the inverse. So you need to learn. What makes me give this suggestion? To realize that human has another dimension. Existence has another dimension. Just like human has a soul, which is beyond the matter, the universe has an after, akhirah, as now the verse is mentioning, which is unseen to me, which is not accessible to me right away. Qur'an, by introducing the ghayb to me, saying that this universe has multiple dimensions. So be vigilant of this. So how is this different than the first descriptions? In the first descriptions, it was the author in the first and the second descriptions. If we go back there really quick. Pre-eternal translation of the mighty book of the universe. So he was introducing the universe as a book, but a book has meanings. Very cool. This was one layer. In the second layer, he introduced us as translator of the various tongues, reciting the verses of creation. So now they are, the creation itself become reciting the verses as if like a Qur'an, but now they are reciting those ayah as if like live speech. It's not like a written and dry book, but it's like a live speech. And now when it comes to the third layer, it is mentioning that this book is not only, when I say universe, do not think about universe as just what you see. There is ghayb in this existence. Akhirah is part of this. Angels is part of this. Spirit is part of this. Jinn is part of this. Like as Quran mentions many things, or as we come here, revelation is part of this. This universe is a thing in which there's going to be the speech from the unseen to you. Like a bridge from unseen to the seen is going to be there. If you don't believe in unseen, then speech of the unseen is totally out of the equation. Doesn't make any sense. So this idea of ghayb being introduced to my world should be something that should have a description in my life at least. Because if you were to ask a scientist, they would say, well, I'm a materialist. With the same certainty, am I able to say that I am a person who has certainty in unseen? Because it is as fundamental. Like for a materialist, it's all about matter, is a fundamental tenet of that worldview. In my worldview, do I say that there is this visible existence? Yes. But beyond the visible existence, there must exist paradise. There must exist hell. Do I, or am I certain about this? Brother, can you have a comment?
Maybe one example, I was trying to find a better example from non-Muslim. So when we think about the book, to even call something book, you have to accept unseen, because like with the book, what you have is just letters. I mean, ink and paper, that's to begin with. And beyond that, you have letters, which are still part of the scene, even the grouping of the letters. But to call something a word, a sentence, and then a paragraph, and then a book, you have to believe something that is not there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to believe what these letters or words points, right? It could be a meaning, it could be, let's say, an advice of the author and so on. And altogether, they point to something, again, unseen, which is an author. The message of the book, the author of the book. These are all unseen, which are not inside the book, which are not the type of the same type of the book.
Mm.
So for the book developers, all these are unseen. So same way in our life, we have things, no matter what they call them, like the atoms or ear drops of a giant dragon. Like we believe something, such thing pleases you. Doesn't matter. If you just take them as they are and say that this is what we see and nothing more, then we cannot understand what they point to.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just starting from there, that they must point to something because I see this order, that I have access to another dimension, as you said, when I interact with this reality. When I interact these words in the book, I have access to something else, which I don't know because it's not this type of the book.
Mm.
So you have to believe in unseen, hence the first quality of this reality, that this reality is pointing to something else other than itself. And the rest comes. Otherwise, rest will not come.
Mhm.
The revelation, even if you hear the text, like I read the text, even if you hear its recitation, even if you say that, oh, this text is wonderful text, without realizing that it must be coming from something out of this universe, you're not believing in revelation. You're not believing in God. Because where it's come from, where it points to, its source, it's unseen.
Mhm.
It's not in this universe.
Yep. So let me turn the microphone to you guys, because I feel like people are lost. What do you think? Including this discussion or not including this discussion? What is your opinion about ghayb? Let's see what we think about it or what we know about it, so that maybe we can refine it together. In the light of the discussion, let's say, but what is ghayb? When Quran mentions they believe in ghayb, for example, what does this mean to you? Because your biology teacher or philosophy teacher would mock you saying that you believe in dancing. Ha ha ha, what do you mean by this? Let's assume I am this philosophy teacher and I'm mocking you. So, your book is mentioning in verse number 3, they believe in the unseen. Do you believe unseen? You say, yes, I do. So then I ask you, what do you mean you believe in the unseen?
I might say that everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, this is exactly what we scientists believe in as well. There are laws governing the universe. Everything happens deterministically because of a law. We call it the law, not unseen, Mr. Atik.
But that can't simultaneously exist with probability.
What? You puzzled me, the philosopher. Okay, kudos, good job. Just to throw off a stupid comment with another comment. So that's a good, good way to go with it. Yes. Yes. Believe in the unseen. Yes.
Likely, we infected with them.
Jinns. Okay. You started from the toughest, but
What's the proof?
what's your proof?
Can you come back to what? Or didn't? I don't have any proof.
You don't have any proof. So in this case, your belief is
It's more like an expectation.
there better be something like this? Or is it more like, well, there's a chapter in Quran as jinn. This is why I believe in jinns. Like if we were to drop this chapter from Quran, would you comfortably say, well, maybe no?
From my journey, if I wasn't told about jinns existing, probably would never thought that's a good idea.
Okay.
Unless obviously society pushes that and says, oh, there's actually these kinds of things. And
Okay.
She's never been in Kensington.
Okay. I mean, jinn, yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yes, you finish?
at the same time, I was thinking about like how science was like, well, not, but we, if you learn, I think from how I learned history of like different particles being discovered, there is an expectation to discover certain like Higgs boson, for example, or even like photons. You can't really see them,
Mhm.
but by experience, by experiment, we're in expectation of certain behavior in certain particles. And then that kind of, I don't know if I can make the analogy, like if you can you think of that as like a belief, but then confirmation through like making detectors and making like coming up with physical experiments to test. Even before you come up with, you put all this like research money and come up with all these instruments, you're in expectation of discovery.
So let me complete your sentence then. So, and for the online people as well. So it is like, yeah, we didn't see, let's say, electron way before, but based on the behavior we are observing from outside, we thought there must exist such a thing, and then we developed the equipment, and then we identified it. So it's like, again, something tangible for us after a certain point. So if, let's say, what you are claiming as jinn or angel or whatever, if such a pattern of behavior exists, then one day we will find a material detector of those things as well.
If they're not in the same dimension, then possibly we can collect detectors.
Yeah, and I think this is the distinction. This is the exact distinction that I'm looking for. So do I expect that there could exist anything beyond this material type of experience or existence that I know of, which current society is taking as one and only explanation?
We're trained in with scientific methodology or cricket science, like how you're raised. I don't think we know how to be with particles, for example. We have electricity, or we have light, through internet now. Right? There's a lot of things that at some point it's easy for someone to be curious and be like, oh, there's actually these particles that I don't see, but I do experience it in my day-to-day life, for electricity, Wi-Fi, and whatever. But for gym time or for like something like the hereafter, what is it that should be to have certainty of? Because even though I can't see photons or other particles, I'm certain they exist because it's so pervasive.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's good. So two things then. One is like, in addition to what the question I was trying to pose before, because in the previous question that I was posing, the person assumes that the existence only consists of this matter, and whatever you're experiencing, either I will come up, or I have to come up with a matter type of an explanation for it, or else there's no explanation I will accept. So in this case, my assumption is everything consists of this type of experience. So I'm limiting myself. But when Qur'an is now saying that, no, why are you limiting yourself to this type of experience? There are many more beyond this. Then comes your question. So I know how to be certain when it comes to presence of electrons, but how do I be certain about existence of things beyond this type of existence? And this type, I mean pointable, like material existence. You had a question there or comment?
So if we do make something that can look like detect gems, then like that wouldn't be, I feel like that wouldn't be the unseen that this is referring, because then it would be unseen. Like you were saying, that we have access to.
So the thing that's the reason I was thinking about this book example. It's not that you cannot detect letters. You can detect letters. You can detect their groupings. You call them as words. What is unseen there is what they point to.
The concepts.
It's either concepts or, again, the author, maybe. Right? Author, I guess, maybe a better example. But the better example. So within the book world, the author, you have access to author through his ideas that he put in the book. But you don't have access to author itself, what these ideas or sentences refer to, indicates to. So it's not about whether you can have a detector or not. Like with the hereafter, for instance, we have instances in this reality, like incomplete justice, let's say, which is there, we can see it, but they also point to something else other than themselves, which is hereafter. Right? This is how we study hereafter in the 10th world. So the hereafter becomes guide of these seen things, what they refer to, what they point to. So with the genes, the same story. Like we will have certain experiences in this life, the seen world, right? We say there are some experiences that I have, some detectors that I have already have. And I need to give them a name, what they refer to, which I don't have access. I only have access to what I detect. The same goes with angels or Ruh. I have access to his Ruh through some, things, like he can speak to me, he shares his excitements and so on. But all these things, from a, let's say, naturalistic perspective, that's all. He can speak through some mechanisms. He get excited because of the hormones and so on. That's it. What you see is the whole thing, they would say. But I say, no, they point to something. They all come together and point to existence of something else in him. This is the guide part.
Sister Zareen had a comment there.
Out loud and see if I see what I understood from this. So I guess my initial thinking, or how I was thinking about like the seen and the unseen, is that the unseen is the direct opposite of the seen.
Okay.
And I think the goal of our current civilization is to try and bring, like attention, to try and bring the unseen to the seen realm, I guess. Like whatever we, for example, whatever feelings we might have, like in psychology, maybe the goal is to figure out which neurons, which parts of the brain are quote unquote responsible for these feelings that we can't see, thus trying to bring it into the seen realm. But I guess what's meant by the ghayb is something that we can't really have access to the true like essence of what's the ghayb. Like we can only experience it through certain manifestations in our reality, which is what I understood, because I guess I was also kind of stuck in a kind of loop of, well, if I can't access it, but I need to be secure that it exists, what benefit is that? Why should I even know about it in the first place? And then I guess another kind of line of thought was, well, then can you say that you can't really be secure in the light without the revelation to explain it to you? Because otherwise, how would I even begin to understand?
Good, very good questions, very good comments. Let's go back to here and try to get our answers from here again. So, Alif Lam Mim, these are just letters, as Brother Birkan was saying, they're just letters. But then ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, those letters are making a book. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, there's no doubt in it, no room for doubt even, let's take it as such. In it, لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and it is guidance for God conscious. So even before introducing ghayb, الذين يؤمنون بالغيب, it started talking about the creator. So creator is, as Brother Birkan was alluding to with his metaphor of the book and the author. Again, it's not a perfect example. But book has an author, because you can say that, well, book is consisting of particles and whatnot, but the author is also consisting of particles. That's why it's not a perfect metaphor. But within the book, you have no notion of the author, because the book is of type ink and paper. Author has nothing to do with ink and paper. So it's a totally different type of being, because even when you refer to the author, you're not really talking about the flesh and bones of the author. You're talking to the unique entity in the author that conveys the message and idea. There's a unity in there. Because if you think about, if Birkan was the author, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, he has written this yesterday and the day before he was eating, I don't know, shawarma from somewhere. Yeah, clearly shawarma is in his ideas. We don't say that, right? The multiplicity of what makes Birkan right now, all different particles, has nothing to do with the ideas that I'm reading in his writings. So they're totally different. So these people are conscious of something, at least. There must be something beyond. And if I take taqwa in here, God conscious, then it is saying that there must be something beyond in this existence than the book itself, the universe itself. Without seeing the author, they said there must exist an author. And to me, this is like simply, we can say that if you see somebody with a hole in their forehead, and you say that, well, there must be someone who took the trigger. You will either say that the guy shot himself, you scrutinize the area, no fingerprint of the guy killing himself, like over the, let's say, gun, there is no fingerprint of the guy itself. Then we say, well, there must exist somebody else who shot the guy. Like without seeing the guy, and now I'm using the term literally, without seeing the guy, I know that the guy must exist. But when it comes to the universe, it's being taken care of with perfect order. And everything is being done in a way that in order to move a single particle to your eye, whatever is moving this particle to your eye must be the one who is moving the sun over there, because this eye is working in accordance with how the sun is functioning over there. So to move the sun in there, you need to be able to move the particle here. It cannot be otherwise. Just extrapolate the idea. What's in the universe has this capacity, has this capability, has this level of power or knowledge. This is why I do say, since I observe this order in the universe, there must exist an all-knowing orderer which takes the particle in my eye, who is at the same time moving the sun. So yu'minuna bil ghayb. He's unseen for me, but I am sure that such a being must exist. So this is how I can be certain, going back to your question. How can I be certain? I can be certain because I observe the outcome, but I know that the doer, the maker, is none of the things in here. This is why I say he is not measurable, not quantifiable, because whatever I am able to quantify is falling short of being the doer of this act. This is why he is staying as unseen for me, because anything that I can see of is unable to. This is why he is going to stay in the unseen. This opens up a perspective to me, actually. Let me give another example. Let's say a crime is done in this building, and police comes and checks everybody here. And look at where they have been for the past 24 hours and this and that. And they ruled out it cannot be any one of us that did this. What would they conclude next? They would say, well, none of these are the doers of this act. So we need to look for outside world, outside of this house. There must be that somebody break in and they carried out the crime, right? Do we think as such when it comes to universe? There is this actions, ongoing actions happening 24/7. Every moment is a new existence. What is the maker of this universe, this life, or me? Our worldview, materialist worldview, is saying that I will only consider the things that are within this house. There cannot be anybody from outside. Whatever is the door has to be within the house. This is my preconceived, if you like, obsession. What I consider, well, let me consider the particles themselves are doing this. Let me say chance is doing this. Let me say it is the natural law that are doing this. Whatever you say, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, the order prevents you to say that, oh, this is what it does. Then what do you have to say? There has to be something beyond this house, this universe, another realm. Because I'm not able to explain this universe as long as I limit myself with the universe itself. Now, Quran is saying that, yes, there exist ghayb. There exist things beyond this universe. The universe does not function by itself. If it sounds too philosophical, this is what we believe in, actually. And when I say we, you consider where yourself is in the spectrum, but the worldview, let's say hardcore materialist worldview, would say that I should be able to explain any phenomena that's happening in the universe within the universe. If you are having brown eyes, oh yeah, definitely I will find the cause for it in your cell, right? This is the worldview which says I will be able to find its door in you. There's no other outside entity which is giving you the brown eye, blue eye. Quran's suggestion in here is saying that no, this universe is not only consisting of the seen world. You cannot explain what's going on in there by referring to only what is in there. Ghayb comes into the picture saying, by just the mere fact that ghayb is being introduced should shake me a little bit and say, if I were able to explain it with the seen only, I wouldn't need unseen. So then we should go back and question ourselves. Does science really explain brown eye with this gene? Since you guys were introducing the idea of jinn, let me suggest the idea of gene. Because what we say is genes are explaining this, but Quran is saying that, oh, if you can, yeah, go ahead and try to explain it with genes. You can neither explain genes nor explain jinns because the potential culprits in the house is not good candidates or feasible candidates to explain the crime, or like in my previous example. So unseen is saying that Quran is saying, I will then explain you what is happening in this existence beyond what you observe. So who believe in the unseen in this case means there must exist someone, but it's not of type of here. He is not measurable with my seen measures from the seen world. This is what it means. Otherwise, as it will come in the next weeks, we will say there must exist a merciful creator. Like if I say Ahmed is more merciful than Atik, it looks like I somewhat have a measure of mercy, right? And then I say God is all merciful. Oh, do I measure mercy of God? It's like unlike saying that Atik is tall, Ahmed is taller, God is the tallest. No, I don't say that, right? But when I say God is all merciful, what do I mean? Actually, what I'm observing is I do observe mercy here. And I say that I couldn't find how to explain how come Ahmed is merciful? Or they said such and such hormone. I went ahead and investigated the hormone. I couldn't see any mercy in the hormone. Yet somehow this guy has the mercy. Belief in the unseen would say, as I observe mercy here, and I couldn't find where it is coming from, there must exist a source of this mercy, not from here, but from beyond.
About the certainty, the following parts in the text, probably didn't include it here, but it's very interesting. It says, the tongue of the unseen world, for Quran again, in the manifest world, and then talk about the unseen world, which comes from the word of unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. So what it's saying is, when it comes to jinn or whatever you call as the unseen, that it is explained to you within the seen world in terms of what you experience. That's how you have certainty. The Quran will say, for instance, oh, do you remember you have such and such experience, which is called angels? Do you know you have such and such experience in this life, which we call as jinns? And such experience, which we call as hereafter.
Yeah.
So the certainty comes from what you see. You say, there must be something. What I see there points to something. I don't know what it is. It seems I cannot know what it is, but it points to something. This is how you live your life. If what is the alternative, would say, whatever you see, that's all. Don't think about what they point. Just call it as, you give it the name and done with it.
Yeah.
Quran says, no, don't stop there. See where they point to.
Yeah. So another example, this is from Surah Fatir. Alhamdulillah, Fatir as-samawati wal-ard, جعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير. All praise be to Allah, who created the heavens and the earth, who made the angels messenger with wings, 2 or 3 or 4. He adds to creation as he pleases, for Allah has power over all things. Now he's talking about angels with wings, 2, 3, 4 wings. So I should pause when I hear something as such from Quran, because angels, like, what do you mean? What is angel? It's talking about something that is beyond what I would consider measurable in the laboratory. I should pause. What does this refer to? Because as Birkan said, it should be somehow concludable by me so that I'm going to have certainty in it, but not the way I explore it in the laboratory. Because the way we explore it in the laboratory is based on certain quantifiable, measurable tools that we restrict ourselves with in the laboratory. But when it starts talking about angels as messengers with 2, 3, 4 wings, I should question messengers. What is messengers in this existence? How do I interact with them? Quran is saying that pay attention to the messengers. How does a message come to you? I think this makes the most interesting sense when we compare somebody who is learning how to read for the first time. Because for them, it was nothing before. Like, it was just shapes over the paper. Once they learn how to read, they realize the existence of a totally new world, a new realm of meanings are appearing to them. It was there, but they were unaware of its existence. How do I explain what's going on in here? This is something for me to pay attention to. And since we are out of time, I'll just plop this one as well. Maybe we can discuss this next week again or continue with the other one and refer back to these verses when we come to what Brother Birkan was referring in the future weeks. But this one is, in a nutshell, talking about the examples that were given. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. Verily we created man of potter's clay, of black mud altered. This is the visible realm. وَالْجَانَّ خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ مِنْ نَارِ السَّمُومِ. And the jinn did we create before of essential fire. Oh, there's another creation being mentioned right after human. Interesting. I didn't know them. I haven't seen them. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي خَالِقٌ بَشَرًا مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. And when your Lord said unto the angels, oh, now a third species is being mentioned. Now this is angels. Lo, I am creating a mortal out of potter's clay of black mud altered. فَإِذْ سَوَيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Now a fourth dimension is being introduced here. So when I have made him and have breathed into him of my spirit, do you fall down, prostrating yourselves unto him? Now a spirit is being introduced. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. So the angels fell prostrate, all of them together. إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى أَن يَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. Except Satan or Iblis, who refused to be among the prostrate. And when I hear this, I should pause. What is this referring to? This is something that I haven't considered. In this equation, I know what human is per my current worldview. But I know nothing about jinn. I know nothing about angel. I know nothing about spirit. And then it's further talking about prostration and whatnot. In the previous verses, we said that this is a guidance. So somehow this text should guide me to find this other aspect that's part of the existence. And inshallah, let's continue from here next week. But at least for this week, my most basic understanding is Qur'an is introducing another world within this world other than the seen. It is saying that this world consists another world or multiple different realms in it, which is beyond what you are experiencing directly. But through this existence, you interact with it. And this has a say for you. Because eventually, we will start talking about divine names, which is going to be part of this unseen, book of the unseen. Like this is not a thing that exists in my scientific or materialist, let me put it this way, worldview. I will find bits and pieces of it. But Qur'an is going to introduce a totally different worldview on top of what we have learned so far. So inshallah, let those discussions serve the purpose of reshaping my perception. Because we get used to looking at things from this materialist worldview so much that even when reading Qur'an, I am reading it with the lens of my materialist worldview and also a little bit of my cultural Muslim background. But let's try to see what Qur'an is offering to me, how it differs from what science or the materialist worldview is offering to me, and how can I first see which one makes more sense? And then, is it possible to blend the two? Is it possible to choose one or the other? So let's question these to refine our understanding of the existence itself. And inshallah, maybe next week, may Allah make us benefit more, because I feel like we got lost. But at least it's good to know that we are lost, because this is such a common theme in Qur'an, ghayb, and it looks like we are not able to properly identify what we are talking about, what Qur'an is talking about, although it was right there at the very beginning. So, سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.